Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Blessings, everyone. One of the frequently asked questions Buddhists have when they meet Sangha, particularly talk about meditation, is why are so few people enlightened? Why do so few people reach Nibbana? Why is it so difficult? Which is a fair question. One time somebody was asking this kind of question of Ajahn Chah, and he said, just imagine you've built a house, you've earned your money, you've worked for a long time, earned your money, designed a house, built it, completed it. And then someone came along and told you, your house is no good, it's designed badly, it looks awful, it's ugly. You might as well just pull it down and redo it. How many people would actually pull that house down and rebuild it from scratch? Probably very few. And that's that kind of problem. We invest so much time and energy building up this attachment to the world, this sense of self, who we are, and we attach to our families, parents, our siblings, our children, our friends. We attach to our work, we attach to our house, we attach to everything, our culture, our society, views and opinions, beliefs. Of course, one who has reached Nibbana is completely unattached. They've let go of all of that. There's no more clinging, and so there's no more suffering in their heart. That means they're willing to pull down the house, let it go. But we are not, because we're still in this process of building up, even though on the one hand we have faith in the Buddha and his teachings, and we like to say, I'm practicing for full enlightenment, I don't want to be born again, Nibbana Paccaya Hotu. We say the words, but our actions betray something else. We tend to still be building that house. We're not yet ready to pull it down, let it go. And so there are very few noble ones in the world. Luckily, there are a few around still, not completely devoid of noble ones, enlightened beings in this world, but they are few and far between. And we have this problem as we're leading our lives, trying to practice the Dhamma, but then at the same time we have to earn a living, look after ourselves, look after our families. And we are kind of building the house up and then maybe taking it down a bit and then building it up again, taking it down a bit. Why is that? Well, simply speaking, we're still not yet convinced that Nibbana is true and that it's the best for us. We haven't fully committed to Nibbana. Why does somebody reach Nibbana? It's because they've given up everything for it. We know the Buddha himself, on the night of his enlightenment, he made that resolve, sitting under the Bodhi tree. He had made that seat of 8 bundles of grass from the farmer who offered to him to sit meditation on, and these symbolized the 8 worldly winds. And then he just said, I'm not getting up until the job is done, until I'm enlightened. till I've let go of all the mental defilements from my mind through my effort. And I'm going to strive, even if my body just withers away, my muscles wither away, and it's just bones, skin and bones left. I'm not getting up until I've done the job. And that was the kind of commitment the Buddha had. So when we look back at ourselves, of course, we have to admit that we're not quite on that level yet. But nevertheless, there's an important principle there, isn't it? It's that part of our practice is learning how to summon up effort and commit to the practice. Even if we feel we've got very little parami, we don't know much, we haven't achieved much, doesn't matter. We all have the opportunity to practice. We all have the opportunity to listen to the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma. And we do have to learn to set aside even our own doubts and our own awareness of our own imperfections, our faults, our mistakes, all the kind of negative memories that pop up into the mind that actually can quite easily just become excuses for not practicing. How often do we think to ourselves, I've got no parami, no merit, I can't do it. And that becomes the excuse to not even make any effort at all, just to give up. Whereas what we're trying to do is say, well, okay, Nibbana is our goal, and it is a long way away in a sense, but we have to practice. If we want to experience any improvement in our mind, any deeper peace, wisdom, understanding, we're going to have to make effort. And if we feel we got little parami or few good qualities, well, that's all the more reason to practice, to develop those qualities, to build our parami. Another one people often bring up when they're kind of looking around for excuses why they haven't really practiced. They say, well, I haven't got any good karma or merit from last life. So they're always thinking about the past. And they say, well, only people who've made merit in the past will be able to become enlightened this life. You know, they've done it all before, so this life they'll be able to finish the job and reach Nibbana. But then what did the Buddha say about that? He said, well, don't dwell in the past. Don't speculate about the past. Don't spend all your time thinking about the past. He said, the place of practice and the place of enlightenment is in the present moment. And we're all experiencing the present moment right now. We're in the present moment, aren't we? But we let our mind wander. So we're either daydreaming and fantasizing about the future or clinging on to the past. We're doing the very thing that takes us further away from Nibbana. If you really want to train your mind and understand suffering and its causes and then experience the cessation of suffering, then we have to learn how to bring the mind to the present moment. That's our place of learning, our place of study. And if you think about it, it's not that difficult and it's nothing too remote from us. The present moment is here right now, isn't it? Whatever your body and mind are experiencing right now is the present moment. We don't need anything much to know the present moment. We just need to train ourselves and practice in bringing up mindfulness in the present moment. Bring your mind to the present moment. And we use objects and techniques to do that. So this is why we use something like the breath to bring the mind to the present moment. You breathe in, you know, then your mind is in the present moment. And if we keep doing that, we get better at it. So, keeping your mind in the present moment. One of the advantages of that is that you can adjust and adapt when unexpected things happen, like when you have a power cut. This is one of the benefits of keeping your mind in the present moment, because with present moment awareness, mindfulness, then you're alert to what's going on around you, what's happening internally in your mind, what's going on around you. And then you have options, don't you? You have a choice at each moment what you're going to do with your mind. So as we're practicing meditation, of course, our main emphasis for part of the meditation at least will be to develop strong mindfulness by putting attention on the breath and keeping it there. And every time the mind wavers, starts to get distracted or become sleepy, then our main aim is to keep the mind in the present moment with the breath. And the more effort we put into that, little by little, the mind starts to steady and become more used to staying with the breath, sticking with the breath. The other advantage of developing present moment awareness is that you can see and know what is going on in your experience at that moment, as it actually is. You have the opportunity to really see the truth of the way things are as you're experiencing it. So if a thought arises in your mind, you can see it, you can know it as it's arising. And rather than getting lost in the details and the story of whatever that thought is part of, the train of thought, you have the opportunity to see it in its true light, that it is a mental formation coming up into your mind at that moment, good or bad, high and refined or very low and coarse, about any aspect of anything. The actual quality of the mind, that thought arising, passing away, becomes much more apparent because we're developing this present moment awareness. The same with feelings in your body. As you are sitting and your mindfulness is improving, strengthening, then it's possible to be mindful and present to whatever feeling you're experiencing, whether it's pleasurable, painful, or neutral. And again, you have the opportunity to know the true nature of that feeling as impermanent, arising, then passing away. One of the problems with Buddhism and the teaching of Buddhism and the practice of Buddhism, like anything else in the world, because we invest time in listening to the Dhamma and reading Dhamma, thinking about the Dhamma, we often get caught into this view that if I accumulate more knowledge all the time, I'll get more and more knowledge, I'll somehow get closer to Nibbana, get closer to the goal, I'll be able to practice better. And of course, in one respect, that is true. We do need some basic knowledge how to practice. But in another respect, it becomes an obstacle very easily for us because we tend to just value our practice based on how much we know, what words, what phrases we've learned, what stories we've heard and can remember, what sutras we can recite, and so on. And there's nothing wrong with learning things and hearing the Dhamma, of course, that's an amazing thing, but it's not the same as knowing through direct experience. Making this jump, this leap from the pages of the book or the words to actually knowing in the present moment is quite a leap. It's something that takes time and practice to develop. And you see, sometimes people are actually sitting, meditating, and they maybe have been given the instruction to develop mindfulness, awareness of the breath, keep the mind in the present moment. But they keep thinking about something to do with the Dhamma. And they're using that as their practice, and they're saying, well, I'm thinking about impermanence, or I'm thinking about spreading thoughts of loving kindness, or I'm thinking about a particular sutta that I've read and heard. And they're sitting there thinking, and they're thinking about Dhamma. So in one sense, that's not bad. But the mind is just caught up in thinking, and maybe also trying to compare what we've heard with what we're experiencing, and it's just too difficult. When we're practicing present moment awareness, bringing the mind to the present moment, you are allowing yourself to actually drop that, even the thoughts about the Dhamma. And you're just looking at the raw data, the raw experience that you have, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, the perceptions, the views that are coming up, how you're looking at yourself, the physical body, the sensations that surround it, and the visual image of it. This is where you're really focusing the mind, and you can afford to drop all the other knowledge, the book knowledge, the words, the concepts. At least temporarily, you drop them to train yourself in just knowing from moment to moment, using the breath as a basis for that. And when mindfulness improves and we are more with what we call the radiant mind, the peaceful radiant mind, using that to just know experience of this body and mind, the five khandhas, what is form, feeling, perception, thought formation, sense consciousness, to just know things as they are, as they're arising. So say, for example, you see a visual image, your eyes are working, you're seeing, and from that you may get some pleasant or unpleasant feeling arise, you get some perception arise, something you like, you've seen the details of it, remembering things, understanding, recognizing things. Could be something you like, something you don't like. But with present moment awareness, mindfulness, and this paying attention to things, you're not adding anything onto that experience. That's your aim. Rather than thinking about it, creating stories, you're just knowing things as they are. So if you see something pleasant, you're knowing that. Oh, that's a pleasant sight. And you may see the attraction coming up in your mind based on what you've seen, but you're not adding to it. You're not creating anything extra out of it. You're just knowing it because you're keeping your mind in the present moment. This is why we practice, and this is why it's so difficult, because we've spent a whole lifetime not being in the present moment. If we're clear and honest with ourselves, most of the time when we don't have anything particular to do and no activity to do, our mind starts to think and create stories and images, and falls into moods very quickly. Pleasant moods, unpleasant moods, happiness, sadness, and we attach to them. What we tend to do as we start practicing is react to what's been going on before. So if we notice we've been indulging a lot in various pleasures, thinking about things that we like, thinking about food, people that we find attractive, or particular pleasures in life, when we notice that, we often recoil, we retract our minds, say, oh, I'm too indulgent, I'm so attached to all the things that I like, my sensual pleasures, and maybe we come back to the breath and we're a bit annoyed with ourselves, so maybe we become very firm and say, oh, I'm going to give up everything. People do that. I'm going to go on a diet, I'm not going to see anybody, and I'm not going to have any entertainment, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm lock away my phone. And we often react with aversion, having seen our mind getting caught into pleasure and indulgence. And then we end up in the other way, the way of asceticism, but based on a reaction of aversion. So we just go to hating things, pushing things away, wanting to get rid of things because we've seen the attachment and we've seen how attached we are. So we say, I've got to be super strict. I'm not going to think about anything. I'm not going to have anything to do with anybody or any any pleasures. We go the way of what we call Atakilimatana yoga, where we're just trying to discipline ourselves strictly just for the sake of it, and often as a reaction, and a reaction of aversion to what was going on previously. And Luang Por Chah used to say, you just notice these two extremes coming up as you're establishing mindfulness in the present moment. Just see that how the nature of your mind is like this. It goes towards what it likes, thinks, it fantasizes, it looks, it tastes. But then it will maybe realize, oh, this is not leading to letting go, this is leading to more attachment. That attachment leads to more discontent, dissatisfaction. So I don't want it. So your mind pulls back. Then we tend to go to aversion and maybe become a bit more strict, and maybe even want to punish ourselves for our previous indulgences. And you see, you've got this sort of endless back and forth going on. But what exposes this and reveals this is the mind that's in the present moment. Because when the mind becomes established in the present moment, there's awareness, there's effort, what we call striving or ardency. And then these movements towards attraction and aversion are exposed or revealed to us, and we can see they're coming from delusion. And the delusion that a certain object, a certain experience is good for me, it will bring me pleasure, happiness, or something is bad for me, I don't want it, I want to get rid of it. And this is craving inaction in our minds, and it's being exposed as we establish present moment awareness. You're seeing the movement towards, the movements away from. Now, ultimately, this is suffering, isn't it? The cause of suffering. It doesn't lead to peace, happiness, clarity. Really, it just leads to more sadness, doesn't it? Even if you're getting, some of the time you get what you want, you can't keep it. So your mind goes to sadness. Or if you're being very strict, over strict with yourself, coming from aversion and push away everything, you can see it's attachment, it's desire and attachment, and you're not happy with it. Well, that's obviously going to lead to sadness. So the mind of craving just leads to sadness. It doesn't lead to a mind of clarity, brightness, happiness. It doesn't lead towards Nibbana. In Nibbana, there's no sadness. But where does Nibbana come from? It comes out of this present moment awareness. And from there, learning to reflect on our experience, develop insights, seeing things from this place of objectivity, knowing just the way things are. We can't practice the Dhamma and realize the Dhamma simply from the books. You know, we have this saying, oh, the Buddha taught 84,000 Dhammas. Sounds great. And, you know, the sort of cumulative mind, the mind that just wants to get more, will always say, oh, I need more of those 84,000 Dhammas. It becomes almost like a kind of Dhamma drug. You know, if I get those 84,000 Dhammas down, I can remember them all, learn them all, know them all, understand them all, then maybe I'll be at Nibbana or near to Nibbana. Actually, the 84,000 Dhamma teachings are great as they are, useful as they are. When you're practicing meditation, you have to put them down. Luang Por Chah said, put all the books in the cupboard and lock the cupboard. During that time, you're developing strong mindfulness. You have to do that. This isn't to say you can't read or learn the Dhamma. Of course you can, and it's useful as well in its own way, but you have to understand the difference between the mind that knows from experience and the mind that is just remembering what it's heard and read, and then trying to use thought to explain to itself. We explain to ourselves what's going on using the concepts, the labels, the information we've gathered, and that's not the same. And so we're doubting because of this. We do experience some peace, some clarity in our meditation, and straight away we're comparing it to the books. Was that, what level of samadhi was that? Did I get beyond the hindrances? Was that jhana? Was that insight? What kind of insight was that? Was I seeing insight into the impermanent nature of body and mind? And we tend to be just trying to steer our experience to creating more perceptions and concepts which we can attach to as me, mine, and feel good about that also. Feel good, I've achieved something. It's part of our desire. The desire process is you're always wanting to have some reward, some achievement. But really we have to see through that. When you're following the breath, just observing the breath rise, pass away, you can allow all of that to drop. It doesn't matter whether it's samadhi or not. All you need to do is just know breath go in, breath go out, and have enough present moment awareness to start catching the craving as it comes up and letting it go. It's true, in the beginning of our practice, we often are coming from a place of, we don't really know yet. When I began meditation, I didn't really know what I was doing, why. And of course, we do listen to the teachings to get guidance. But the important thing is to have that interest to learn from your experience, to keep going, to keep at it, keep putting effort into it. And little by little, you're gradually feeling your way. So it's almost like walking in a room in the dark. You know, when you do get a power cut, like we just had now, you're walking in the dark, moving in the dark. So you have to slow down. You have to be cautious. You have to keep feeling your way, and you have to be very, very mindful. Otherwise, you might fall over or hurt yourself. Meditation is a bit like that. Of course, you know, you're unlikely to really physically hurt yourself, not usually, but you're mentally easy. It's easy to fall into states of, say, disappointment when you're not getting what you want, or when it doesn't seem to match the books, and we react with disappointment, as well as all the other hindrances and obstacles that can come up: the stubbornness, the laziness, the sleepiness, the worry, the desires that are distracting us, and so on. We really have to learn to just cautiously keep putting attention onto the breath, keep going with the breath, feeling our way, getting better at it, getting better at turning attention to the breath and letting other things go. And just like being in a dark room, you know, when the room goes dark, there's always a little bit of light there. You know, just enough as your mind and your eyes adjust to the darkness, you can start to make out shapes. And then also you can use your own experience, your memory and your experience to know where things are in the room. So you can move around the room, maybe, even though it's very dark. Our mind is like that. As we practice, we do start off in the dark, but then gradually clarity comes, you know, things become a little bit brighter, more familiar. We become more familiar with our own habits of thought, our own particular pet attractions and aversions, you know, things that we personally have developed through our own character, our own karma. We're becoming more familiar with ourselves and our own mental activity, the way we look at things, our views, our beliefs. So little by little, we can start to look at them more from a place of Dhamma, understanding and see them as impermanent, as not really a self, not really me, mine, myself, but just phenomena. So we start to see our experience as phenomena. It's the physical sensations, sight, sound, taste, physical sensations with the body, and the mental images, ideas, concepts, feelings. But we're seeing them more as phenomena. When we see things as phenomena, they're impersonal. They're still arising into our mind, into our experience, but they're impersonal in the sense you're not creating a self out of them. You're not reacting with liking or disliking, just knowing things as they are, as they're arising. And there's some peace to be found in that, because there's understanding and objectivity there. You can see phenomena as phenomena. So say an unpleasant memory, a bad memory about something that you feel guilty about, or brings up guilt, brings up an adverse reaction. With present moment awareness, you can know that memory as a memory, the feeling as a feeling. And that's where you can let go. That's the mechanism of letting go. It's having enough awareness to see a memory as a memory, a feeling as a feeling, a thought as a thought, a physical sensation as a physical sensation, rather than creating trains of thought around it based on attraction and aversion, rather than creating the story around it. It's just knowing things as they are, and there's peace in that. We say keeping the mind in the middle. It's the middle way, neither grasping at or rejecting experience, but just knowing experience as objects of mind. Even the physical side of this body and the sensations, just knowing them as objects, physical phenomena arising, passing away, colors, shapes, forms, smells, neither liking them or disliking them, just knowing them as like this. Thoughts arising, passing away, knowing them as like this. So the mind isn't giving so much importance to these things. This is where real peace comes from, peace that's based on both present moment awareness and wisdom, understanding. If you have learned a lot of Dhamma, and you've learned all 84,000 Dhamma teachings, well, good. That may actually help you to explain things better to yourself, to other people. But if you're not one who's read a lot, learned a lot, you can still do this practice. It's not dependent on having studied a lot. It's more dependent on developing the present moment awareness and then the insight into the nature of phenomena. And someone with very little education can do that. Someone with a lot of education can do that. Someone who's read a lot can do it. Someone who's read very little can do it. What it really takes is effort, practice, training the mind to look at experience and knowing it for what it is. This is what we call deconstructing that house I was talking about earlier. Normally, the deluded mind is constantly building the house up, investing so much energy, so much physical and mental energy, so much desire, so much attachment in building up our world, who we are, who we think we are, who we feel we are, how we appear to other people, our image in the world, our material possessions, and then the mental impressions we send out to other people, our profile, and so on. We spend all this time building up this sense of self, but as you develop present moment awareness, you're doing the opposite. You're letting go of the sense of self that forms around phenomena. You're seeing phenomena as phenomena, so physical phenomena as physical phenomena, mental phenomena, feelings, thoughts, memories as mental phenomena. This is actually deconstructing the house or tearing the house down little by little, brick by brick, nail by nail, tile by tile. It may be slow, it may be laborious, that doesn't matter. You're going in the right direction. And when the house is down, then one experiences the end of suffering. If you don't have a house, there's nothing to worry about, is there? There's nothing to have, nothing to suffer with. As long as we've got a house, then we're going to worry about it. As long as we have this sense of self, we're going to have fear, worry, anxiety, desires, things we want to get rid of. So this is why sometimes the Buddha compared Nibbana to the house builder who has broken the rafters, pulled the house down. There's no more house builder, so there'll be no more birth, no more rebirth, no more suffering, no more old age, sickness and death, no more COVID, no more debts, no more problems, all the things we don't like about this world, they'll be gone. If the house builder's gone, then those things will naturally end by themselves. It's just cause and effect. So never underestimate the power of present moment awareness. Just training your mind to bring it to the present moment using the breath and all the other techniques we have. Training this, practice with this a lot, do it a lot. That's what the Buddha said, do it a lot. One who does it a lot gets good at it, gets better at it. You don't have to think how long it will take. You don't have to think about last life. I didn't do it enough last life. How am I ever going to find results this life? You don't have to think like that. You just do it. Bring the mind to the present moment and keep practicing it. And that's not just in formal meditation, but when you're doing any activity, try to maintain your present moment awareness, your mindfulness, your reflective powers as you're doing that task, as you're sitting listening to this talk, as you're eating your meal, as you're going about your business. Do it a lot, and this is the way that we liberate ourselves from suffering. So tonight I'll leave the talk there, and if there's anyone with questions, we can do our best to answer them afterwards.
Annamayang Namakathaya Sadhu Karang Tatamase Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu